let's say good evening. What time is it? I don't know. Good evening. Thanks everyone for coming today. We took a few, like 2 weeks to prepare this for you guys. We're gonna have an amazing event where we're gonna present a lot of information for first-time home buyers. Today you're gonna be able to meet professionals in the industry from the beginning to the end, the process from the beginning to the end in buying a home. And I want to thank everyone for coming. I want to thank all the sponsors that came in today, Frank Colon, Steven Gatman, and we have Tony as well as here, contractor, Felix, everyone for coming to help us, Anthony de la Casa. I want to thank everyone for coming. No further? Okay, thank you. So we're going to start today with, my name is Alexander Galvez, Century 21. I'm the realtor, actually. I forgot to say that. I'm the realtor that will get you the house. In the process, you're going to start, the first contact is going to be the realtor. And then the realtor is going to guide you to the whole team or the rest of the people that will help you with the process. And I want to introduce you today with Steven to come in today. Thank you, Steven, for coming in, for sponsoring the event. And you take over.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm Steve Gottesman, FM Home Loans. I'm new in this business. I started doing it in 1991. I had my own, for me that's like yesterday. I had my own company till 2011, and since 2011, I've been with FM Home Loans. That was a very crazy time in the business. We've all heard of the 2008 mortgage meltdown. A guy on my block who owned FM Home Loans, he said, Steve, I heard you want to take a break from the business, but I think it's a mistake. The whole business is going to revolutionize. It used to be that anybody could do mortgages, but now there was heavy licensing and there was a high bar to entry. He says, I think it's going to clean out all the garbage from the business and we're going to do great. Well, that year in 2011, FM did $300 million a year in business. Last year we did $4 billion in business. So we're probably the biggest company that you never heard of. We're in 24 states, but the state that we're most concerned about right now is New York and the Bronx. Now, I can tell you a mortgage is a commodity. And you say, okay, there's Chase, there's Wells Fargo, there's TD. Who's this guy from FM Home Loans and why do I go to him? Well, I'm happy that Frank is here because I've done loans for his clients. And I always tell my clients, I said, look, you might be able to fill out a form online and get a mortgage. You might go to someone who's new in the business who's an order taker. I said, but between now and when we close the house, we're going to find out why you came to me. We don't even know what the issue is yet, but I promise by the end we'll figure out why. And Frank, am I telling a lie here?
You are.
Frank can tell you that I've had one specific case with him that the person thought, it was a slam dunk deal. There were certain things that came out that it wasn't such a slam dunk, and you have to structure every deal, no matter how big, how small, the simple ones, the complicated ones. It has to be structured right from the beginning. And part of that is what we're going to talk about now, because part of that structuring and part of that planning are things that you have to do now, even before you go buy a house. A mortgage it's like we have the 10 Commandments, and then we have a lot of books about the Bible off those 10 Commandments. There are only 4 commandments, 4 foundations in the mortgage world. And those 4 foundations are income, assets, credit, and the appraisal. Okay, so let's talk about income. Now, some people have very simple income. And when I have someone who's a nurse who's making a salary, married to a bus driver who's making a salary, it's very simple. They get a W-2, they get a pay stub, their income is cut and dry. Okay? But then there are some more difficult cases. There are home health aides, for example, who work hourly. There are union workers who can be on 7 jobs a year and get 7 different W-2s at the end of the year. There could be self-employed people. There could be people make overtime, bonuses. All of these things are things that, we'll discuss. We'll figure it out in advance. And it's not so simple. Someone says, I make this, but hold on a second. You said you make 100,000, but last year you were an hourly worker, and last year you only made 50,000. An underwriter might look at that only as $75,000. Or I could say, you know what? We're going to put you in a program that only looks at 1 year of income instead of 2 years. Now, had you gone to TD Bank, I'll give you an example. TD always looks at 2 years. So you wouldn't have even known that there's an alternative. So like I said, everything is about structure. Now there are people, I don't know if anybody here is self-employed. Many self-employed people, they make a lot more money than, let's say they tell the IRS. Or they're creative with their taxes, with their expenses. And those people show me tax returns, I made $40,000, I want a house. So you'd say, okay, he's not getting a house. But that's not necessarily true. There are loans called non-QM loans, and I think one of the flyers I have that I put in, that's this one, it talks about that there are different ways of proving income. I'm just going to backtrack for a second. In 2008, after the housing crisis, President Obama passed the Dodd-Frank Banking Act. And part of that was an ATR, ability to repay law. And it said that you have to show, there used to be these liar loans, as they called them. You just said what you made, and the bank said, okay, and they gave you the money, and that's why they all collapsed. You had people making no money, buying $800,000 houses and getting $20,000 back at the closing. President Obama put an end to that. But he went a little too far. And there's a famous speech that Robert Rubin, the Secretary of the Treasury, gave. He had just retired from the Treasury. He made $900,000 the first 3 months out of office giving speeches. He had contracts for another $1.2 million the next 3 months. And he was rejected for a mortgage.
Oh.
Because the rule that was put in place in Dodd-Frank said that if you're self-employed, you must be self-employed for 2 years. He wasn't self-employed for 2 years, rejected for a mortgage. So since then it's been relaxed, and the ATR rule, the ability to repay law, isn't strictly 2 years, W-2s, pay stubs, tax returns. There are alternative methods. And a bank can determine, yes, this person has the ability to repay, so you show bank statements if you're depositing a certain amount of money. I'm not going to get into the specifics, but bank statements, your accountant can write a profit and loss statement, 1099, so different creative ways. So again, some people are overconfident and think they're going to get a loan, and then they're surprised when they're not as qualified as they think. On the other hand, with the income, some people say, well, I can never get a loan because of my tax return, and they're underestimating their ability. So that's the income side. Now, assets, money in the bank. People think that's simple. All right, assets, money's money, right? No, money's not money. Ever hear the expression, cash is king?
Of course. Yeah.
Cash is the worst when it comes to a mortgage. Cash is not king, it's the court jester. If you have cash, you know what it's worth to a bank? Zero. If you show me a bank statement with a $40,000 deposit, and that $40,000 was cash, if you have $40,000 in the bank, we look at it as zero in the bank. So you have to be very careful with cash. And if you do deal with cash, it's something you have to discuss with me, because guess what? There are ways that you can use that cash the right way, ways of seasoning, or again, I'm not going to get into very specifics now, but again, things that are not intuitive to you can kill a deal just because you think it makes sense. Nothing makes sense in the mortgage world. There are very specific rules. There are rules of the world, and then there are mortgage rules. And that's why you don't make a move without talking to me, especially about the money. For example, if your mother wants to give you a $30,000 gift and put that cash in, you're dead. However, your mother could do it a different way and give you a gift, and that money is clean. But again, we'll talk about that, individual basis. The next, we said income, assets. Again, be very careful with assets. And again, there are ways to use your 401k program. There are ways, again, every specific case, every case is different, and that's part of the structure. Credit. My favorite story with credit was, I did a lot of business with a guy named Ami. He was an Israeli guy. English was probably his third language. And so his English was okay, but, and he was speaking to an African guy who English was also probably his third language. So these two guys are speaking their third languages to each other. The African guy had 800 credit score. If you don't know what that means perfect. The best.
Yeah.
He had a perfect credit score. He looks at this credit report and says, wow, this is excellent credit. He says to the guy, from now till the closing, don't do nothing with your credit. Don't do nothing with your credit. What did the African guy hear? Don't make any payments. And his credit went from an 800 to a 500. He couldn't get the credit.
Oh my God.
How did that happen?
Because he stopped making his payments. Because Ami told him, don't do nothing with your credit. He meant, don't buy a BMW, don't buy an expensive ring, don't buy a diamond necklace, but that's it. So again, nothing is intuitive. Also, some people think they have good credit. Their credit isn't as good as they think. People think they have bad credit because they might see a low score. But sometimes it's very easy to raise the score. For example, I had someone today to qualify for a program. They needed a 720 FICO score. They had a 680. They were despondent. I looked at the credit. I said, nothing to worry about. What happened was he had very thin credit. What does that mean? He had 3 credit cards. One had a $500 credit limit. One had a $700 credit limit. One had a $750 credit limit. So credit is very funny. Imagine if I told you 2 guys, one has $10,000 in credit card debt, one has $1,500. Who has the better credit? The guy with the $10,000. Why? Because his credit lines were $70,000. So he's only using 1/7 of his credit. The other guy, who had the 5, 7, and 750, he was using almost 100% of his available credit. All he had to do was pay down those 3 cards just a little bit. His credit went to a 730 from a 680. So these are things, we have these tools to be able to tell you. And I always tell people, don't pay off your credit cards because you think it's going to help. Sometimes it could actually even hurt. We're going to run the credit. I'm going to tell you what has to be fixed, what doesn't have to be fixed. Another common error that people make with credit. And again, I'm telling you this because you're all looking to buy houses, and sometimes people are anxious and they do these specific things. It happens over and over. One of the worst things is they have a collection account. And I'm not talking about something that was egregious, something silly. You moved, and your cousin, who said they were going to return the cable box, never returned the cable box. And you didn't even know about it until I ran your credit, and there it is from DirecTV, a judgment or a collection account. So you say, oh my gosh, that $80, I'm just going to write the check for $80. It's the worst thing you could do. Because you know how much DirecTV cares about you? Less than 0. You're nobody to them. So they're going to take that $80 and they're going to write paid late, paid derogatory. Little things like that can make a 100-point difference sometimes. What would the right thing be to do? You call DirecTV and you say, hey, I see this $80, this was an error. My cousin was supposed to return the box. If I pay you and you write that paid derogatory, I'm finished. So if you want the money, because usually it's with a creditor, it's going to be with a collection company who gets paid only if you pay, say, I will pay this in full, and I'm not even negotiating with you. I'll pay the whole thing, but I want a letter from you in advance that if I pay it, you will remove it from my credit. That could be, just that phone call could be $100, 100-point difference on your credit. Little things, and again, I'll run your credit, we'll see if any of these things happen. You'll be surprised things pop up that you can't even imagine. Okay, so we talked about income. Every case is different. Assets, It's something you have to be very careful, and especially after we start the process, don't do nothing with your assets. No, don't make a move with assets, deposits, or moving money around without speaking to me. And then we talked about credit. Okay, so now the easiest one is the appraisal. Because the appraisal, you're trusting a good realtor. He's not putting you in a house that's not worth it. So the appraisal invariably comes in. Does it happen that appraisals can come short sometimes? Yes. I had a case right here in Pelham Parkway. A woman wanted to live across the street from her mother. She knew she was overpaying for the house, but she wanted to live across the street from her mother. So cases do happen. You say, oh, but why would she pay $550 but only appraised for $500? Because to her it was worth $550. She wants it was worth the $50,000 to be next to her mother. Now I can tell you that the house is worth over $1 million today, so in the end, it definitely worked out for her. But the appraisal is the least of your issue. The only thing that can happen with an appraisal is if work needs to be done on the house, sometimes the appraiser will say, this and this has to be fixed. Usually it's taken care of right away, appraiser goes back, and you're finished. Now, now that I'm just talking about the appraiser and I mentioned realtor, I just want to say something that Mr. Galvez won't tell you, because he's modest. Here's a crazy statistic. I'm going to ask you to guess. What percentage of people actually see their house online, the house that they eventually buy online, before they ever speak to a realtor? What percentage do you think? Anybody want to guess?
80%?
It's over 80%. Exactly. So you say, well, then what do I need a realtor for? I have the internet. I have Zillow.
Yeah.
There are a couple of reasons why that is the absolute. Now, again, you might think like that, it might make sense. Hey, 80% of people, what do I need a realtor for? I'll tell you 2 stories that happened this week, okay? Story number 1. The guy was one of those people who just called every number on the internet. He saw a house, he called the number, He called the number, he got along very well with the realtor. He showed him the house, got outbid. Then he saw another one, he called that one, he called him. The original guy called him and said, hey, Felix, I have a great house for you. So he says, oh yeah, I saw that house already. Ooh, what do you mean you saw that house already? Cheating on me? I thought I was your guy. The next day, I happened to know that realtor got an exclusive, an amazing estate deal. Do you think he called Felix back? Do you think he called him back? No. He called the customer who was loyal to him and got him the house. So that's story number 1. No matter who the listing broker is, no matter what number you see on the internet, you see a sign on the lawn, don't call that sign. You call your realtor. He has your best interests in mind. He knows the market better than you. He's the one who's going to negotiate for you. Story number 2 happened here in the Bronx. I'm going to say a first name, and you probably know who I'm talking about. A listing, a client of mine who was looking for 6 months calls me and says, I got the house. I got it. I saw a flyer, $689. I'm going to make a full price offer. I'm going to get it. I say, can you send me the flyer? He sends me the flyer. My friend Otis was the realtor. I say, Otis, I see this house, $689. What's the story? He says, bring me a $650 buyer. It's theirs. Okay.
Wow.
Now, do you understand? This guy was ready to make a $689 offer because he's smarter. He doesn't need a realtor. He saw a flyer. You see that flyer? You call your realtor. Your realtor says, oh, this house? Oh, I know. Oh, this is going to take $650 for this house. Let's get it in contract. So again, it's very tempting to call, 10 different numbers you see on the internet. There's only one number you call. Now again, if you don't like him, he's not your guy. But if you find a realtor who you get along with and you trust, never call anyone else. Okay, again, I know he's too modest to say it, but that's the truth. I'm going to wrap up just with a couple things. There are a lot of mortgage companies out there. There are big banks, there are small mortgage companies, and I always say, what's the difference? Of course, it's experience. Of course, it's knowing how to structure a deal. But I always say, the best thing a mortgage company has is the donuts, and say, hey, use me because I'm going to bring you donuts, or I'm going to bring you pizza, or I'm going to take you to a Met game, that's not it. We have to bring something to the table. So I'm just going to give you 3 examples of some things we bring. One, I told you about our non-QM. Now, one thing about our non-QM, when I say non-QM, that's when you can use bank statements instead of tax returns, or profit and loss, or 1099s, etc. We're very different than everyone else. Everyone else, there are big companies that do this, and they'll underwrite a loan, send it to the big company. We don't do that. We underwrite our own loans. We put together between $20 and $40 million packages, and we sell them to hedge funds. So we make the decisions. We don't have to depend on anyone else to make the decisions. And if there are exceptions, we don't have to beg someone for an exception. We're the ones who make the exception if it makes sense. So that's one thing. We're a big company, and we make our own decisions. Another program I want to talk to you about, and this is unbelievable for the Bronx. It's not for everywhere. It's our home run program. I put a flyer in here just in this example of a house. I think this house might be sold already. Our home run program, you can make $1 million a year and you still qualify. It's certain areas in the Bronx, and it's actually most of the Bronx. There's something called CRA, Community Reinvestment Act, where the government tells banks, you must make loans in specific areas. The Bronx is one of those areas, underserved areas. And because of that, like in this example, for example, a loan not in the area would be 6 3/4%. It would be 6 3/8%. But here's the big one. No MI. Does anybody know what MI is?
Mortgage insurance.
That's it. Who said that? Who said mortgage? Very good. Mortgage insurance. If you put down less than 20%, you have mortgage insurance. This program, no mortgage insurance. So if you went to Chase Bank, your payment on this house would be $6,224 a month. If you came to us and we used this program, $5,732. $500 a month difference. It's significant. We actually just did one on a $999,000 house in the Bronx, 2-family. People put down 10%. $950 a month difference. So again, I'm not here just to take orders. We will check the addresses. I'm going to teach this office how to how to look to see if a house is available. And if it is, it's an advantage that you have that other buyers don't have. Because they think, hey, this is a $6,000 payment, this is a $5,000 payment. You know that you can get the same house for $4,500, not the $5,000, and it will fit in your budget. So again, we're trying to give you tools to make you successful homebuyers. The last thing is, and Tony is going to speak about 203K loans. Here's a big problem. Did you notice there aren't a lot of houses for sale? And did you notice that a lot of the ones that are for sale, you wouldn't even let your dog use the bathroom in that house? What if I told you that any house on the market, even the disgusting ones, you see this house, this house is on the block I want. It's in the neighborhood I want. It's near the public school that I want, but it's disgusting. Putrid. Imagine if you could look at this house with magic glasses and it's fully renovated. Now would you want that house?
Yeah.
It's fully renovated.
Yeah.
We have a program called our Fix and Live program, where, let's say the house is $400,000, needs $150. 400 plus 150 is $550. We will look at this house as if it's a fully renovated house that's worth $550 or more, because if you take a $400,000 house and you put $150 in, it's not worth $550. It's probably worth $650 or $7. Okay? We will lend you the acquisition cost and the money to fix it up, and we'll put you in touch with someone like Tony, who we trust, who there won't be any cost overrun. So if we say it's $150 to fix, it won't be $151. It's $150. We'll help you with certain payments while the work is being done. So again, if you find a house not in great condition, that's in the neighborhood you want, the street you want, it can be yours with a little imagination. We'll also even help you. We'll give you AI renderings, but these are ways that, again, there's no inventory. We have to think of ways to create inventory, to make it happen for you. And that's what we're here to do, not just take an order, give you a rate, and go home. Which is what you can do if you go on the internet and fill out, at 3 in the morning. I'm not up at 3 in the morning, but most hours I'll take your calls. So I hope that I gave you a little bit of foundation. Again, really, what Ami said, don't do nothing with your credit. If you're serious about buying a house, keep your credit clean, save the money, talk to me about, and we'll figure out, what budget is good for you based on the income, and that's the story. Good luck finding a house. I think you're in good hands with a great team here.
Maybe they want to have some questions for you.
Okay, any questions?
For Steven?
See, I did such a good job, nobody has any questions. I explained it beautifully.
Very clear.
Yes,
I do have a question about the fixed and lease program.
yes.
What are the requirements?
It's a regular Fannie Mae loan, so it won't work with the non-QM loans. In other words, with the alternate, bank statement loans and 1099 loans. It's a full doc program. It's a Fannie Mae program. It's not something, we just made what's called a forward with Fannie Mae that we committed a certain amount of money to it. The rates are regular Fannie Mae rates, and it's one close. So that's the story. Now, it works best with single-family homes, but we could do it with two-family homes in some cases also.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else have a question?
It's in Lee?
Yes.
Okay, no, no, I was just thinking.
Next,
Oh,
Steven,
Yes.
I'm specialized in FHA and 202 loan. But can you give me more information about your program? I never heard about it.
right, because we're the only ones who have it. We invested it. We invented it. Look, there's definitely still, we do 203K loans also. The 203K is an FHA program where you can put down 3.5%, and you can get a rehab loan. The problem people run into with FHA loans is that they didn't hire Tony. What do I mean by that? What I mean is, what are the pitfalls, what are the problems with doing construction, especially a novice? I've owned a few homes, I've done construction, but you've never done construction. What are you going to do? Where are you going to borrow the money from? Okay, you got the 203K. You got a $100,000 quote. What happens when an unscrupulous builder then sticks you with a $120,000 bill? Where's that extra $20,000 coming from? I'll tell you where it's coming from. Either you have the money and you dish it out and you didn't want to, or you don't have it and you don't really finish the house and you live in a house with dirt floors, and it's a big problem. There's a second problem. You're going to be in the house by Easter. Great, Easter. Easter comes, hey, where's the house? Oh, next Easter, not this Easter. I said Easter. Which Easter? And that's a major problem, because guess what? If you have a $4,000 payment, that's $50,000 of payments that you're on the hook for because of this delay. So that is the issue that most people have. And then when it's done, what if the work wasn't good? So those are the three issues, and that's why it's so important that you have a contractor that you trust. And again, with our fix and live, we only work with contractors who guarantee the work amount. So if we say 100,000, even if they find something that's an extra 10,000, they have to stick to that 100. So that knocks out that part of the.
So that's considered the full doc loan?
It's a regular Fannie Mae loan, but it has a construction component to it.
It's construction
Yeah.
component, okay.
Okay?
Thank you, sir.
Anybody that wants to ask the question in Spanish? Yeah. We can translate.
Yeah, I would like to know how, that you know, mentioned the government have help for the first buy house. So that's what with the bank, or is
Yes, so those are usually income-based programs. Right now, Fannie Mae came out with a $2,500 program. There is a $7,500 program, but again, each case is individual, and those are mostly income-based programs. And unfortunately, it might be good in Missouri, and it might be good in Kentucky, but in the Bronx, where prices are very expensive, you have to make a certain amount of money to be able to afford a house, and so a lot of times the income levels are, that you need to buy a house in Bronx are too high for those programs. Yes.
Can you use the fix and flip for violations?
Fix and live, yes. Yes.
Good question.
I do
Anybody
have
else?
2 questions.
Yes.
One, the over question is, do you have to be a first-time home buyer for the fix and live? Or you can?
No, you don't have to be a first-time home buyer, but it's not. It's a owner-occupied program. In other words, if you're coming from another house, the only issue is carrying both houses. So that's something we'd have to figure out.
So you also can get that with the multi-dwelling, right? Like when you have rental income property.
So you're talking about as an investment property, or as an investment property? We have DSCR loans. You don't even have to get a tax return. It's just an appraisal and your good credit, and that's it, and a bank statement, and that's the whole loan. Just all based on cash flow. And again, if a property isn't cash flowing, an investment property, you don't want it anyway.
How long is the close? I mean, how long does it take to close
What type of loan?
with the
Same.
multi-dwelling? Same?
Yep. A DSCR loan?
Yeah.
You mean
DSCR.
I just closed one in 17 days.
Wow.
Because it's all based on the appraisal.
Right.
The appraisal comes in and the rentals for the appraisal say it's good, it's good. That's it, it's the whole loan. Yeah.
What is the speed in the paperwork with the contractor when we understand the process to it?
As long as long as he's approved, the day of the closing, he's ready to put the shovel in.
Wow.
Oh, what?
Yeah, I wanted to know, for example, if I have, for say, $60 in the bank, and I'm Citibank, for example, and then I go to Chase, I see Chase, gonna pay me more interest, and I take.
That's fine.
That's fine, so that
See, we have to have an
happens.
audit trail, we just have to show, but I'd have to see the Citibank statement that it came from. Remember, we usually see 1 or 2 bank statements, so any activity in those 1 or 2 bank statements will have to be explained. If you get a $50,000 insurance check, that's explainable. The insurance company, if you got a bonus, and if you moved it from one bank to another, that's also fine.
Also fine.
Yeah. Yes.
Just want to say, Stephen, thank you, great presentation, and also I wanted to ask you, are you guys in Jersey or only in New York State?
We're in every state that you'll ever want to buy a house. I'm personally, besides the company is in 30 some odd states, I'm personally in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, Texas, Florida, Illinois, Indianapolis, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and I don't know which one I forgot, but I think I did.
Oh, great.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks.
So we take you guys through the process. So first you meet the agent, and then you go to the agent. I'm ready. I want to go and see houses tomorrow. But then also as agent, we ask, okay, are you pre-approved? What is that? Then we got to talk to them that they need to get pre-approved to purchase the home, and then we introduce you to Steven. Now Steven took over. He explained everything to you guys, what you need to do to get pre-approved, and all the beautiful programs that he has. Then after that, now we got to speak to, once we get you guys pre-approved, that you have a loan approval, then we start looking for houses for you. But we got to go through the process. You go to the realtor, then you go to the lender. Now after that part is completed, once we find the house, then we have to do an inspection. So we have to make sure that the property is good. There's not gonna be something wrong with the structure, the roof, the boilers, and things like that. And then we have to hire an inspector, which you as a buyer have to pay to make sure that the house is solid and is good. So we're gonna bring right now John Felix, to come in, and he's one of the inspectors that we use.
Yay!
What's going on, guys? Thank you, Alex. Great introduction. I gotta
The microphone has.
follow this act.
Thank you.
Tough act to follow.
Thank you. It's okay to follow. So my name is John. First name, last name Felix. I'm the owner of the company. Been in business for about now roughly 2 years. I actually am the new kid on the block. So I do have a lot of experience in the real estate space. I've been in the real estate industry for roughly 5 years. So I know a lot about the realtor side. I understand the finance side very well. But now I have a big background before real estate in investigations. So I used to be a private investigator in my past life, and that's what led me into investigating homes, pretty much. So like Alex said, right? So after you guys go through the craziness of getting your paperwork together, saving all your money, getting the loan, speaking to Alex, getting that, that pre-approval, and then finding that house, right? It could take you 1 week to find a home. It could take you a month, 3 months to find a home that you're in love with, that's perfect for your family. But then the question is, you got a $500,000 loan, $800,000 loan. Is it worth the investment, right? Is this house livable? And that's where I come in, right? So a home inspection is a visual inspection of the main components of the house, the foundation of the house. We want to make sure that when it rains, the water stays out of the house. Nothing is coming inside the house. We look at the roof. That's the main question that I get during the home inspection. John, I want to know, how is the roof? How is the roof? Is there water in the basement? Is water getting into the basement? So these are things that we're looking at. Basements, we're looking at foundations. We're looking at your boiler. We're looking at your heating system. We're looking at your drainage. We're looking at your plumbing. We're looking at your electrical system. I want to make sure that your AC is working. I want to make sure your windows are operating properly. I want to make sure that your floor is sound, that if I put furniture down, that it's not going to cave in, it's not going to sink in, right? I want to make sure that your front door is in good condition because you're opening that door every day. I don't want it to fall on you, right? Making sure your bathrooms are in perfect condition, that your plumbing is good. So there's a lot of things that go into a home inspection. When you're looking at these things, expect the home inspector to find defects. We're going to find something. That's our job. We're going to find something. The question then becomes is, how big of a defect is it, right? How big of a defect is it where then I have to call a professional contractor to come in and repair it? Where we have to decide, okay, am I going to need a fix and live loan, right? Or adjustment. So these are the things. So during the home inspection, we identify those issues, we talk about them, and then we decide whether, with your realtor, if that's something that the sellers are willing to fix for you. For example, let's say that you're doing an FHA loan, okay, first time home buyer program, and your windows are broken. Okay, this is something I see all the time. You got a broken window. FHA is not going to play ball with you if your windows are broken. If you have a bad roof with a leak, FHA is not going to play ball with you. Okay, so these are things that we look at. Now, if you're doing conventional, if you're doing different types of loans, there's a little more flexibility. But these are things that I'm looking at. In some cases, and Alex can speak more to this, but let's say I find that your windows are broken. Your door doesn't close properly. Every time you flush the toilet, it leaks into the basement. If we identify those issues during the inspection, that's one less issue that you have to deal with later if it's negotiated. Now, Alex can then go in and say, okay, look, we found a house, we got the home inspection, we found that every time we flush the toilet, it leaks in the basement. Is the seller willing to fix it? Maybe the seller is willing to fix it, or they're going to give you a credit to make that repair. Okay? Something has to happen, right? Or maybe they could just say, you know what? None of that is going to happen. It's as is. And take the house in the condition that it's in. But that's a conversation that you rather have at the beginning, going into the transaction before you're fully vested. The one thing I don't look at when I go into a house, I don't look at cosmetics. I don't look at paint color. I don't look at the types of light bulbs that you're using. I don't look at the type of floor that you're using. That's cosmetic. That's for you to design. That's for you to decorate. We're looking at the main components. That's the difference between saying, okay, you're flushing, your toilet's not flushing, your drain is clogged, your windows are broken. Then the next question that I get is, well, how much is that? How much is that going to cost me to fix? I'm not here to give you estimates either. I'm not the contractor. We got a contractor in the back. Let's call him. Let's get him on the phone. Hey, what do you think this is going to cost? Well, what's the problem? Well, I got a drain that's backed up. I got a window that's broken. I got a door that won't close. All right, cost of labor, cost of material. What kind of supplies are you going to use? There's a lot of factors that go into that conversation, and that's why I can't give you an estimate. It would be unjust. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of home inspectors that's what they want to do. They want to give you a quote. Oh no, man, it's gonna cost you $50,000 to fix it.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I'm the inspector, I found it. $50,000 to fix it. What do you walk away with? Anxiety. You walk away with, you're heartbroken because now you fell in love with this house. You worked so hard to get the loan.
Oh.
And now all of a sudden you got a $50,000 price tag hanging over your head, and you don't even know if that's a real price tag. You don't even know if that's a real number until you speak to a professional that can give you proper guidance. Man, we're giving you a lot of love over here. Everybody's going your way. You know, so just keep that in mind. You know, just be a smart consumer. Surround yourself with professionals that know what they're talking about. Just to kind of talk about the company a little bit, we look at single-family houses. We look at multi-family houses, right? So 2-family homes, 3-family homes. If you're buying a co-op, we look at co-ops too. We look at condominiums. Part of your home inspection also includes termite inspections. Does anybody know what termites are? Anybody? Termites? Okay, so termites are bugs. They look like they look like ants. They're insects, but they eat wood. Okay? They're terrible for a house because they will eat the foundation of your house. They will eat the beams of your house. All right. So I'm a licensed termite inspector with the EPA. And we will go in and we will look if there's any signs or activity of previous activity or current activity. We'll be able to identify that. Additionally, we do cover water testing. So let's say you're buying a house and it smells funny or it tastes weird. You can call us. We will test the quality of the water and let you know what's going on with your water. Do you have lead? Do you have zinc? Do you have chloroform in it? I mean, we will tell you exactly what's in your water. That way you can get a proper filtration system. Your Brita filter does not filter everything. Maybe you need a reverse osmosis filtration system, the one that goes underneath your sink. Maybe that's a thing. Does anybody here know what radon is? Come on, hold your hand.
Radon, yeah.
Radon, come on, no realtors.
Yeah.
Nobody? Okay.
I know a little.
Anybody know what smoking is?
What?
Smoking cigarettes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Smoking a lot of cigarettes cause
Cancer.
lung cancer. Radon is the second leading cause of lung cancer in the United States.
Yeah.
Second leading cause. So either you smoke and get lung cancer, or you inhale radon for a long period of time and you get sick. We do radon assessments as well. So what is radon? How do you get it? Why is that a big thing in a house? I never knew this could happen. Depending on the region of where your home is, and you can attest to this as well. You can attest to this. Certain parts of Connecticut, if you're going to Orange County, when you're going further north, radon is a natural radioactive gas that comes from the earth. Okay, it just naturally comes out. If your house is not ventilated properly or it's not circulating air correctly, and radon is getting trapped, the air, the gas is getting trapped in your house, and you're breathing this in every day. Just talking, right? We're just talking. And we're breathing it. 20 years, 25 years, 30 years. I'm a little sick. You go to the doctor, you have lung cancer, but I don't even smoke. Well, guess what? You have radon, okay? So we'll come in the house, we do an assessment, and then the EPA recommends that you do this assessment if you do have radon every 2 years thereafter. Okay, so it's better to be safe than sorry. When you're buying a house, you work so hard to get it. Your life savings just went into it. You spent so much money on a contractor, again, okay? Let's make sure that it's safe. It's safe for you, it's safe for your family, it's safe for your children. For those of you who are planning to have children, make sure that you welcome this new life into a safe home. And that's what I'm there to do, is make sure I give you a safe home. If you have children and they're afraid of monsters, I will look underneath the bed. I will look inside the closet, okay? Just to make sure there's no monsters in the house. All right. If your wife or you're expecting or you're soon to have a baby and you want me to go in and look at the house to make sure that it's child ready, talk to me. Let's talk about it. This is a big investment. It's going to take you a long time to live in here, right? 30 years, 15 years. If you refinance, you can go further. So that's what we do. We are licensed in Connecticut and New York. Okay, so I do both states. I don't do New Jersey yet.
What areas of New York do you do?
The 5 boroughs and Long Island. Okay, and then New York, I go upstate as well, as far as Poughkeepsie, if I like you. So, yes, I'll go as far as Poughkeepsie. And then Connecticut, I've done some work for you in Connecticut as well. So, that's that. That's my spiel. Any questions? I'm also Spanish, so si tienen que hablar en español y necesitan
You also
consultar.
check for mold?
I do check for mold, so that's a very good question. In order for you to confirm that you have mold in your house, there has to be a lab analysis of the mold. So samples need to be taken and sent to a lab. So if I go in there, we all know what mold looks like. We all know what we think it looks like. So I can probably tell you, yeah, that looks like mold, but I'm going to use a different word. I'm going to say organic growth.
Okay,
Because it would be unjust for me to say it's mold, because then the bank is going to get mad at me.
okay.
Then the bank is going to say, well, the inspector said it's mold, I want a mold assessment. I want to make sure that it is. I want water sample, I want air quality sampling, and I want to know for sure what
Now,
it
what
is.
does mold do? I mean, what type of,
Respiratory issues, that's the best way I can tell you. It's going to be respiratory issues, just like radon. It's not good. It's not good. It's not good. A lot of people say, oh, well, it's mold, let me just paint it. I'm just going to paint it and call it a day.
It's over.
We don't do that, right, guys? We don't do that, right? Some people, they just spray Clorox on it, and the thing is going to go away. Clorox would just feed it, and it'll grow back to algae, and then it'll grow back to mold. Some people just spray vinegar on it, and think that's the solution. I saw a TikTok the other day that said, if you spray vinegar on it, it will kill it. Listen, guys, mold is a serious deal. Get it remediated properly. Stop taking shortcuts. This is your health. This is your family's health. Don't take shortcuts. Cut out the sheetrock. Replace the sheetrock. Call my good man over here. He'll replace it for you and get you going. Okay, guys?
Do you check, like, let's say you have radiators in the property?
Yes.
Do you check the paint? Does the paint, a particular paint that creates some type of issue?
Yeah, so when you have
that you can identify?
Yeah, so when you have radiators, and that's a good question. A lot of people don't ask that question, so good call out. When you have radiators, they create a lot of heat. And some people like to paint them and give them different colors. Make sure that it's the proper paint for it, right? That is heat resistant. Don't use typical wall paint because it's gonna crack, it's gonna give off bad odors, it's gonna react differently from the metal to the paint. So you need a Rust-Oleum paint that's gonna not rust, not oxidize, and then ultimately when it heats up, it's not gonna emit any odors or scents that are gonna be harmful. Just shoot, don't even raise your hand, just shoot.
All right. March 20th. That new law goes in.
March 20th.
I'm sure you're salivating.
Oh yeah, I am. I am.
Do you have anything like set up in place? Because I have a feeling there's going to be a lot more activity on the sell side now. Are you offering any sort of products or services where you're going to go ahead and complete that property disclosure form for them, or provide any sort of guarantees? I know that's not a word you're going to like, but because it's for the rest of us, it's going to be a clusterfuck.
So just to clarify what he's asking, for those of you that don't know, on March 20th, the governor of New York State has rolled out a new law, a new policy, a new law that says that everyone selling a home needs to complete a property condition disclosure form, okay? Whereas in the past, or currently what's happening is, when you're buying a home, let's say Alex is selling the home to me. Alex is supposed to disclose if the house has any defects, mold, roofing issues, a leak in the basement. In lieu of disclosing that, all Alex has to do is say, you know what, I don't know. Here's a $500 credit. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the gist of it, okay? Now the governor said, you know what, I don't like that. That sounds a little weird. I'm changing that law. So now there's like, what is that? It's a very detailed report. It's like a couple of pages, 50 questions I heard, 50, 60 questions.
Wow.
And so now you have to disclose the actual conditions of the property. Are there ultimately what they want to know is, have there been any floods? Are there any active leaks in the basement? Is the roof leaking? So you got to go through this questionnaire and you have to answer everything. So you, as the new homeowner, you buying the house, now you have a list. What's really going on with this home? As a home inspector, yeah, it's good because now there's going to be more of a serious demand for pre-listing inspections, which is something that I'm always promoting that I want to offer, right? So if you're selling a home, get it inspected before you list it, so you know what's going on with the house, so you don't get caught in a position where you have to say, well, I didn't know, now I'm liable, right? Other home inspection companies are trying to offer really crazy incentives and packages to kind of draw themselves into the business. Look, at the end of the day, all we're looking to do, Felix, inspections, is to make sure that the house is safe and livable. right? So if it means coming in there at the selling point and looking at it, I can't write the disclosure statement. It's just not, that's not kind of how it's tailored. It has to come from the attorneys and from the sellers themselves. Everybody has to stay in their lane with that respect, because then you're getting into murky water.
But is that something you're gonna use as a template going forward?
We will be incorporating those questions within, I mean, it's already built into what the New York State requirement for home inspectors is to look for in a home. It's just now pointing it out more so. Right now, home inspectors are, where home inspectors on one end might speak on it more thoroughly now and others don't. Now all of us are gonna have to be able to step up and say, all right, now I have to look for floods in the basement. Now I have to look for a bad roof. How many layers does anybody know how many layers you can have on a roof?
Not infinite, almost.
Three.
Three? I'm hearing three on this side, I'm hearing infinite. Anybody else? 3 layers?
Maximum.
7.
Maximum.
7?
5.
5, holy shit, okay. Excuse my language. No, so realistically, what about you? What's the most layers you can have on a roof?
3 layers.
3 layers. So you see how this topic is very
Murky.
murky, right?
Yeah.
For a home inspector, if I see more than 1 layer, I'm
It
flagging.
all depends about the county, 200 pounds.
Right, so if I see more than 1 layer on the roof, I'm flagging it, okay? You gotta remember, when you pick up these packs of
Heavy.
shingles, they're extremely heavy. So when you have multiple layers, 3 layers, 5 layers, infinite, you're putting a lot of weight on your roof. Okay, so what happens, these walls are gonna carry a lot of weight. You ever see some walls and they start cracking? Some of it is superficial, some of it is just cosmetic. But then when you have 3 layers, 4 layers, 5 layers, now you're coming into a structural conversation. Okay? So anytime I see a house and I see that, listen, your insurance company's not gonna, when they send that insurance guy out there to look at your house, and he sees, oh, that's 4 layers, they're gonna flag it. They're gonna call you and they're gonna have a conversation with you and say that this is a risky home. Okay? So there's a lot of things that we look at outside of just the basics. But yeah, good question. But yeah, that the new property condition disclosure form is gonna be a big thing for the market.
So is that also dealing with the survey of the property?
So the survey is something completely different. That has to do with the banks, where they come in and they assess.
It's just a map of the house.
Yeah, yeah. Because a lot of people want to know, okay, John, well, or Felix, whatever you want to call me. I'm buying this house, but where's my boundaries? Where are my borders? And that's where the survey
The
comes from.
survey also shows a flood zone too, I think.
If you go on FEMA and get the flood, there's a flood map, it'll tell you the flood zone. You're thinking of an elevation cert,
Right.
where if you are in a flood zone, you can get lower insurance by getting an elevation cert, because not all homes in the identical flood zone were created equal. You can have one a little higher, so that's what the elevation cert is, so they'll give you credit for being just that much higher, because to be that much higher than this house is that much less water.
Okay.
So that's what it is considered a survey, but it's called an elevation cert.
Elevation, okay.
Any other questions?
What's the price range for a 1 family and a 2 family?
Depending on the home inspection company, there's language out there that says it could be anywhere between $500 to $700 for a single family or even a multi-family, depending on the company, the style of house, the square footage, and where it is, right? So it's kind of
En español, Félix.
como usted quiera.
En adición a las inspecciones visuales, ¿tiene usted algún equipo, herramientas especial para detectar, por ejemplo, el liqueo,
Yes.
escape de gas?
See, in English, for those of you that don't understand, he's asking, in addition to the home, he understands that the home inspection is a visual inspection, but what kind of equipment, what kind of tools are you using to ascertain the defects and what you have in the home? And so, a lot of tools. And uno de los herramientas que nosotros usamos son detectores de humedad, en cual nosotros podemos poner en la pared y detectar el nivel de humedad que hay en la pared. Si la pongo aquí arriba, puede ser que tenga 30%, la pongo abajo y puede ser que tenga 90% de humedad. Okay, es una indicación que en un tiempo hubo una intrusión de agua o algo que está sucediendo, que la pared está mojada, entonces es una forma de detectar. In most cases, what we do is we have humidity and moisture meters, where we can press them up against the wall and we'll know the percentage of humidity within the wall. right? So I can tell you if a wall is 30% humid or moisture or wet versus 90% wet and completely saturated. We also have infrared cameras. Una de las uno de los equipos que tenemos, una cámara infrarrojo, que yo puedo cogerla, apuntarla a una pared y me puede decir si hay un cambio de temperatura. Es muy bueno para nosotros en saber si la casa está insulada. Hay mucha gente que dice, no, la casa mía está bien insulada, y cuando yo pongo la cámara, nada más esta parte tiene insulación y esta parte no. Porque hay muchas veces que uno se siente en una casa y siente esa brisa que le entra a uno.
Hace frío,
Y dice, concho, ¿y este frío de dónde vino?
Yeah.
Porque la casa no está insulada, pero cuando te la vendieron, dijeron, sí, está insulada. Y de una vez yo puedo saber y detectar. What I was just telling him is that we use infrared technology. And so infrared technology is good because it tells us temperature differences. And so it allows me to know if a home is properly insulated or not. In most cases, the house can be insulated just on the bottom or just on the top, and it'll let me know where the insulation was skipped. In addition, it's good for heating systems, it's good for electrical panels. If I take my infrared camera and I aim it at an electrical panel, it'll tell me if a certain breaker is heating up more than another breaker, right? Which could be a potential fire hazard. También se usa en un panel eléctrico, en dado caso que un breaker está calentándose más que otro, ahí yo puedo detectar visualmente, instantáneamente, si ese breaker se está calentando, si es un riesgo que puede causar un fuego más adelante. So, in addition to that, I mean, there's just so many tools in my car. I mean, so el roof, the drone, the roof, I check with drone technology, right? So I bring my ladder anyway, but more than 100% of the time, I'm flying a drone over your house to see what's going on. En dado caso que tengo que chequear un rufo y la escalera mía no llega, nosotros usamos la tecnología de un dron para ver exactamente la condición del rufo. Le tomamos fotos, le tomamos videos, todo eso va incluido en el reporte para que puedan ver con exactitud lo que yo estoy viendo y lo tienen de referencia para un futuro en dado caso que lo necesiten. También le doy fotos adicionales para si quieren hacer un diseño del patio o cualquier cosa, ya estaba ahí y le presté las fotos para que puedan hacer su diseño más adelante.
Excelente. Aplauso.
I'm not a home first buyer, but as a home first buyer, I got my question. What does mean home inspection report?
What is a home inspection report?
Yeah, what is
so
home
after the
inspection
physical
By
inspection.
details.
Huh?
By details, correct? So
Yeah, so what happens is I'm going to go in the house and I'm going to look at all those components. So I'm looking at your plumbing, your electrical, your heating, your foundation, your roof, your windows, your drainage system. I'm looking at all these things. It's a lot of information.
Right.
So after I finish the physical inspection, me looking at everything, it's like when you go to the doctor. All right, cough. Right? They're going to write everything down on a computer. Same thing. I'm writing everything down on a computer and I'm giving you a full detailed report of everything that I inspected. Okay, everything that I inspected, everything that I found, everything that I didn't find, everything that I recommend that you do to keep your house optimized. Because a lot of questions come up. You'll buy the house and you go,
right.
The inspector didn't mention this. What is this? Oh,
One more question.
yeah, and so that's why it's a point of reference. Two more questions. Oh man, I'm hot. What's up? Shoot them off.
What are you, as an inspector, what are you doing now that a lot of people have two family houses and they say the tenant doesn't want to let you in, coming back? How does that affect the buyer and the money they have to pay?
Let me rephrase the question to make sure I
You
got it
have to
correct.
come to the house for a second time.
Yeah, it happens all the time. There are people who have a multi-family house and the tenants don't want to comply. They're just not happy that they're going through a sale. And so a lot of times I'll get denied access. I'm not there to fight with anybody. If I'm denied access, I go back to the professionals. Hey, listen, I tried to conduct an inspection on the second floor. The tenants are not compliant. They're not letting us in. Maybe you can talk to them. If I have to come back a second time, I'll come back. Most home inspection companies will attach a fee to that second visit. If, every situation is different. If I have to come back, I'll come back. Not everything is, it wasn't your fault per se, but we gotta do what we gotta do at the end of the day to make everybody happy.
Yes, it's just a comment, just to clarify, and I just want to go back to the seller's disclosure. So I'm very interested in curious to know, I don't know, Anthony, if you're going to be a speaker tonight, but in Jersey, I sell real estate in Jersey, we do use the seller's disclosure form. and then it becomes a big deal when you are the listing agent. And we already know the condition of the house because the sellers, in most cases, they're well aware what they're selling. And then if you take a listing and you don't have full disclosure and you sell that house is sold, and later on the buyers are going to be looking for the listing agent, and so for the attorneys. So I'm curious to know how this is going to be play out here in New York State. Because in Jersey, every time that you sign a listing with a seller, you need to have the seller disclosure. And all the realtors are asking, do you have a seller disclosure?
Right,
As
so
an
it-
inspector, as an inspector, you have to be in the lookout of the condition of the house. Because I know that sometimes we're pressed to sell the house, and we are providing a lively inspection report, just to be in the lookout for that.
Yeah, no, that you know, it to me it's a great thing. And I think it opens up a lot of transparency in the transaction, and it makes the consumer that much more aware of what's going on. And so, and I think it makes everyone accountable for their part in the process, right? So it makes the home inspector more accountable for his responsibility as a home inspector, as well as the agent and everyone involved in the team. At the end of the day, everybody goes home happy, I think. So that's just my take on it. Yeah.
Adding to what Shirley said, Connecticut is doing the same thing.
Yes, they-
As an agent, for us to protect ourselves, we have to disclose it to the buyer, even if the seller doesn't want to. That's a way to protecting ourselves not to get sued. And that's what I've done. And even if the seller is against it, we have to protect ourselves.
Right.
So we have to disclose whatever the seller doesn't want to the buyer.
Right, I think like everything else, right? I think, the property condition disclosure, just like the lead form, just like the bed bug form, just like every other form that you have to disclose, right? Fair housing and everything else. Like that's all that we must, do as agents, as professionals in our business. So I think that's just one more thing for us to kind of check off on our box, but we'll get used to it. And, yeah, and we'll rock and roll, and I think, it'll be good for business. Yeah. Cool. All right. Any other questions? Spanish questions? I gotta practice more. No? Okay. Cool. Hey guys, thank you so much for
So, John has, he's actually sponsoring a raffle today. And can you please tell them so they don't leave?
Yes. So today we are going to raffle Yankee tickets, okay, for the opening weekend. All right. So make sure that you hang back and you hear out the entire seminar, and then we'll be.
Mets fan.
You can go. And then we'll be raffling those tickets out, and whoever the lucky winner is, you'll have 2 tickets to go enjoy the game with, your other half.
Yes.
Friend.
Also, go ahead. We got food. Also, we got wine in the back. So we want to have a good time with you guys. Please stay around. One more thing. So I got my client, my buyer. I showed him the house already. Then he said to have a pre-approval letter. I brought Steven, right, to get the pre-approval letter. Now I have the pre-approval letter.
Awesome.
Now we went to see houses. We got an offer accepted.
Nice.
I brought you. How was the inspection?
Oh, it's great.
It was great, right?
We found
you passed.
Yeah.
Houses.
There's always something. There's always something.
For the sake of the conversation, yes, it looks good.
It looks good. Okay, so now the next thing is that we gotta get an attorney for you guys. So you need an attorney to represent you on this big investment that you're doing, right? So we're gonna be bringing Anthony La Grasa, right?
Great.
Pass you the honors.
Oh, wow. I don't know how to work the suspense.
I know. Thank you, guys. Bravo.
Yeah, great.
I have stage fright. I go in front of the judge every morning in front of 200-300 people, no problem. But now I have stage fright. My name's Anthony La Grasa. I'm an attorney. I have been practicing for 12 years now. Doing real estate for almost 6. Not quite wet behind the ears anymore. I've learned a lot. I know a lot, but I have a lot more to learn. And that is a daily process for me. And more often than not, it's people like Steven and you, the brokers, that are helping me learn some of that new stuff. But what I really want to focus on here is, so a client comes to you, I want to buy a house. All right. Send them to Steven so they know what kind of house they can buy. And you find your house, do the inspection, everything's good, now it comes to me. The deal killer. That's the lawyers. They're always killing the deals. Believe it or not, we are not trying to kill deals because just like everyone else, we're not getting paid until closing. So, but my job, unfortunately, is to kind of put everything that's been done under a microscope and scrutinize it. Not because I want to kill the deal, but because I want to make sure that we're not wasting any further time on something that is not going to happen. Or identify problems or issues that could potentially kill the deal down the road if not identified, addressed, negotiated, fleshed out up front. And that sometimes may cause delays in getting the contract signed and back and forth, or even changing some of the terms of the contract. But it ultimately is to everyone's benefit, at least in my experience, to do that. And what I try to do is, particularly when it's a property in the 5 boroughs, much of my work is not only making sure that the contract contains the material terms that the parties agreed to, that's in the deal sheet that the brokers put together, but to actually make sure that it all makes sense. For example, if I get a deal sheet that says, it's going to be FHA financing, I always go check the building department website, HPD, ECB violations, ACRIS, the land records, and I'm basically looking for problems. Because if there's violations on the property, and I know the client is going for FHA, or it's listed as a 2-family, or it's listed as a 1-family, and the basement was an illegal build-out, I want to let my client know, hey, this could be a problem with the lender when they send in their inspector to do the appraisal. They're going to raise issues with this, so we have to come up with a workaround. And same thing with the violation. So I see that there's an illegal conversion violation on the property, or there's multiple HPD violations. They're not going to allow a closing. Lender's not going to allow a closing unless that's all cleaned up. And as a lot of you, I'm sure, are aware, dealing with these departments is no easy task. These things are not resolved overnight. They take weeks, sometimes even months, if not more. And so when I see a deal sheet that says FHA financing on or about closing in 30 days, and there's 30 violations against the property,
Oh, no.
it's never going to happen. Or it is going to happen, but we got to start managing expectations or reworking the terms and whatnot.
Is that considered like a clear title? Like you clear that title?
Yes and no. So, and Frank will get into that later.
Okay.
For purposes of title, violations do not interfere with clean title.
Okay.
For the attorneys and the lenders, yes, they're problems for us. So when I can, like I said, when it's the 5 boroughs, a lot of this information is available online. I'm still going to have a title company. I'm still going to have Frank pull title because we need insurance. And a lot of what is online is not always what's actually available in the hard file. So many times I'll go online, I'll see there's no CO on file. But title report comes in and there's a CO there. Or I'll see that there's no violations, but the hard file came back, there's violations. In fact, there's a relocation lien in there. Nightmares. So, but my preliminary searches are just simply to try and identify any potential problems that could complicate or create delays or altogether just kill the deal. And in doing that, though, more often than not, I'm confirming everything's good, or there are issues, but they're minor, and I'll alert the brokers to that. Hey, this is, you know, we gotta work something out here, a post-possession, or you know, maybe we have a non-cooperative tenant. Let's start talking numbers in terms of if a post-closing escrow will be agreeable, and what kind of number would be agreeable for all the parties to be comfortable, so that we can go ahead and close and deal with it after the fact. These are, and everything I'm talking about is in anticipation of navigating the contract contingencies, clean title, the mortgage contingency, the appraisal contingency, vacant, delivered vacant, as is. The property disclosure law that's changing now. That is great for Felix. Yes. Terrible. Terrible for me.
Great for everybody.
Because everyone's, I already see it. Oh, the lawyer. The lawyer's gonna deal with it.
Good for litigation.
Yeah. And it's gonna open. I mean, I hope it doesn't, but it's potentially going to open a huge can of worms in terms of liability. You know, what was nice about, and what is nice right now, is when you close on a property as the seller, you're done. Any representation you made in that contract dies the day that you close and hand the keys over and deed to that buyer. Absent a couple of exceptions, but for the most part. Now, that's not necessarily going to be the case. And I'm going to, you know, for all your listings, your sellers, the first thing I suggest you do, tell them to go pay a few $100 and get that pre-listing inspection, because the I don't know game is not going to fly. And the last thing a seller wants to hear is, oh, I can get sued after I sell.
It's a $500 CYA.
Yep. So, but I don't know how it's going to play out. It's going to be sort of a kind of feel your way as you go along, a lot of trial and error. But I do think that is going to be very helpful in terms of arming the sellers in signing that. Just looks, at the end of the day, they're the one. We're not signing it. You're not signing it. They're signing it. And if shit hits the fan, and they're saying, "Oh, yeah, no, we told you to get the pre-listing inspection. You got it. You saw it. You reviewed it, filled it out. You signed it based on that." So but it's also good though. It's to protect the seller as well. So I think that's going to be very, very important for the brokers to focus on when they're getting those new listings. But kind of backtracking now. So, you know, between the dealings with the mortgage broker, realtor, you're trying to cover all your bases. You're doing your homework, making sure you've got the funds, or you will have the funds, your credit's good, the house is good, or, you know, relatively good, in good shape. And now it's just me getting you guys, or getting the buyers across the finish line. All right, putting to paper, pen and paper, what the material terms were, and helping the mortgage broker and the realtors navigate to the finish line. What's what I want to cover? I'm really shooting off the cuff here. I wasn't really sure how I wanted to talk about this tonight, but yeah, I think that's really it. You guys have questions? Fire away.
More or less, how much you charge for a two-family and a one-family? What's the price they talk about?
$8 billion. No, I charge a fraction. For anything residential, condo, co-op, one family, two family, three family, flat fee of $2,000. I'll take $500 up front, and then the balance at closing. My retainer says balance at closing or termination of contract. Rarely do I ever actually collect the balance. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But every once in a while, you get a real jerk of a client, and I've only had to stick it to someone once. But I usually waive it though, because I know that for the deal fell through, they're going to try again with another property, and whatever that issue was, maybe they were, they priced themselves out a little too high, so they got to go look for something more within their price range, or that property had violations galore. So, but they're going to come back to me though when that next deal comes on the table. So, I rarely will I ever stick my full fee if we don't close.
One more thing, two things. For the property disclosure, right, on your end, when you're going to litigate that, you see some houses.
No, I'm not going to litigate it.
Well, right, that's what I mean, just in case so it doesn't get litigated. You see some houses that are as is, abandoned cash, or houses like that.
That's
And we do
easy.
as is. We do know they leak. You still have to do the property disclosure, even if it's an as is cash to an investor.
Well, so we're talking about this law. It pertains to residential homes, 1, 2, and 3 family. Well, actually, up to 4 family. Doesn't apply to commercial. It doesn't apply to foreclosures. Like when the bank's auctioning off, because the bank doesn't know. They just took it over. Similarly with commercial, it's buyer really beware. That's on you to figure out. Estate sales, again, you're dealing with someone who's not the primary owner, who doesn't have personal knowledge, who wasn't living in there day in and day out, to have that knowledge and information to be able to pass along to the seller. The law, the change it's a good thing for buyers. It's an annoying thing for sellers. Great thing for Felix, terrible thing for me. But it is, the spirit of this change in law is to ultimately benefit the buyers, because they didn't live there. You're dealing with the seller who's lived in that house for 20 years. They knew about the flood that happened 2 years ago. They know that when it gets really, really humid, the basement, gets a little moldy. They know it. It's their house. So the state is just saying, just disclose it. Just let them know. Hey, look, everyone understands no house is perfect. Even brand new homes, Felix is going to find problems with it. But they want more information provided to the buyer, so the buyer is.
So every house gets it, even if it's all cash, unfinanced. So unfinanced, you can't finance this house. All cash, we just want.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
And then does that start on
March 20th?
So
by the way,
list the house.
you made one mistake. I can finance any house as long as it's in.
No, there's some owners that don't want no cash. There's some owners that just want cash. They don't want no financing. Now, so that's, say I list the house on the MLS today, or do I need it when I close the property?
It's going to go by the effective date on the contract.
On the contract, okay.
Right. So, if you listed this property 6 months ago,
right,
and then we're negotiating the last month,
no, it goes in.
And then we sign on the 21st.
Then you need it.
You need it. But if you did it before, the 19th or before, you can still do the $500 credit, even if you close 2 years from now.
I just want to add something real quick. Sorry to chime in, but you asked a couple questions about payment, right? How much do you charge for this? How much do you charge for that? I'm the only person in this transaction during the process that is not paid at closing. So the home inspection gets paid at the time of inspection. Okay, guys, it's not, oh, I got to defer this to closing. No, home inspections are paid at the time of inspection. And then these guys are.
And the appraisals.
And the appraisers, sorry. Okay.
And sometimes the service.
Yeah, well, you're on the second. See, that would be.
Oh, I have a whole bunch of business cards.
Any other questions?
No.
All right, Alex, is there anything you want to?
Yeah,
I have a question.
okay.
How do you handle a situation where I'm buying a house, but the person selling the house is also buying a house as they're leaving? And they need the house for an extra week or two after I close.
Yeah. Post-possession.
AKA post-possession.
Post-possession.
I know you love those.
Attorneys hate them.
Yeah.
And the banks don't want to know about them.
It's nothing.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, you know, we try to avoid them as much as possible. Even the clients too, you know, you want a clean closing, cash for keys, or, you know, and, you know, you buy the house, you paid all this money, you want to be able to move in the next day, you don't have to wait. But sometimes it's inevitable. The sellers are, you know, they're on the balls of their ass, and they don't have 2 cents to pay for the moving company. So they need some of the money from the sale to move out.
So if I buy the house and I close today, and they need an extra week, do they get to live rent-free in my house? Because technically it's my house now.
If I'm a buyer's attorney, absolutely not.
Oh, they did.
No, we're going to do per diem. We're going to basically, we're not looking for windfall profits here. But, you know, the understanding is, you know, the standard is, okay, for every day that the seller is going to be allowed to remain in the property after the closing, they're responsible for that daily cost.
Gotcha.
So, property taxes, utilities, mortgage interest, and sometimes even the homeowner's insurance.
And in that scenario, my attorney would be the person to go to for guidance on that?
Yes.
Got it. So you're the man with all the details. Got it.
So another question for you, Anthony. So, as Latinos, it's hard for us to put the money together to purchase a home. So we like to travel, drink, do a bunch of stuff. So sometimes it's hard for us, a Latino, to put the money together. It takes us sometimes 3 years doing taxes, you know? And then all of a sudden, we decided to buy a house. And we're so afraid right now because 3 years saving the down payment, 3.5, I have $20,000 that I saved, consanes, aquí, doing a bunch of stuff. How do I get, and usually we are very afraid to lose our $20,000.
Mm-hmm.
How are you gonna protect my money so I don't lose my $20,000 that I saved for 3 years to buy a house?
Great question. The way I explain it to my clients is, when you're putting down whatever it is, 5 grand, 10 grand, 20 grand, 100 grand, that's you saying, hey, I'm real, I'm not bullshitting, I've done my homework, and come hell or high water, I'm gonna buy this property from you unless someone or something that I have no control over gets in my way. And really what that boils down to is you've gotten your pre-approval. You're already sharing a good, I love it when I hear from the client that they haven't just gotten the pre-approval. They've submitted all the tax returns, bank statements. They basically, the loan officer's gotten all the underwriting done, and all that's needed now is a signed contract and an appraisal. That is music to my ears, because it tells me that they're real. They understand that this is not just a simple little process, or I'll get to it when I get to it, and they're taking it serious. And so as long as they're taking it serious and they're doing what they're supposed to be doing under the contract, which is really, at the end of the day, making sure their loan officer has everything that they need, because the realtors, Frank, me, and Steve, we're kind of taking care of everything else. And our interests are very much aligned in that regard. So without even intentionally doing it, we're kind of all looking out for each other. Because, you know, if I miss something in the title report, violation, the bank attorney's going to pick it up, or Frank's going to highlight it in the report.
And there's a lot of fail-safes in place that are going to protect you. I have, most of my contracts, you know, it's, even if the lender backs out, it boils down to as long as the buyer was acting in good faith, they're gonna get their money back. It's the clients who are going into it half-cocked, it's not really a priority for them. They change their mind, you know, I'm not happy with this interest rate. It's, you know, it's going to be cheaper for me to just keep renting because now I've actually taken the time to crunch my numbers. No, you should have done that before you signed the contract. So, and the more deals that I've done, the better I've gotten at sort of feeling people out. And I'll know right off the bat if I'm going to be dealing with potentially a problematic client. And not so much a problematic client, but a problem having to fight for their down payment back because they're not taking the process as serious as they should. But no, you're good. You're going to get that money back 9 out of 10 times. Again, as long as you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and I'm the guy that's telling you what you should and should not be doing.
Thank you. Any other questions for Anthony? Anthony said after the meeting we're all gonna get drunk, so he has sponsored wine. So any problems, you go to him. He brought the wine. So now we went through that step with Anthony, which is Anthony is gonna be representing you. Now we're gonna move on to another step. So we're gonna move to a step where this person, you don't see him, it's called title. So this person that is behind the stage, probably you won't meet him, you won't meet this person, you know, meet Anthony, the accountant, the inspector, the lender, the realtor. But now this is a very important step in the process. Thank you.
Hello everybody. Hello everybody.
Hello.
Don't forget the buzzer.
Yes. You know my voice. We got a little verbal. All right, nice. Hello, so we got some really valuable information from Steve. He gave you some really good topics and good programs that you could work on. Alex is your realtor. He's gonna give you all the know-how that he has to look at houses. Felix is here to make sure that what you're buying is actually sound and a good purchase. Anthony here is going to give you good advocacy and representation throughout the home buy process. So, I am the title guy. I'm Frank from Nexus Abstract. All right. I just want to get a gauge out of the audience here. How many people know? And you mentioned something that really you know kind of hit it for me. Clear title.
Yeah, clear title.
All right. Let me ask you. What is clear title?
Making sure that the property is inspected properly and there's no issues with the title at the time of close.
Yes. Now, when we say clear title, what we're really mentioning is, you know, different things that encumber title. For instance, you have mortgages, you have taxes that you do searches for. You have a plethora of issues that might affect title. The last thing you want is to buy a house and you have a mortgage that went unpaid. Title's here to make sure that we identify the different mortgages, or sometimes 2 mortgages, or different things that encumber title, and make sure that that's settled and we close for that. All right. Now let me give you a background on title. What is it? You know, title is here, you know, clear title, like you said, is making sure there's no legal issues or anything that there are no legal issues or things that might affect title, so that you can refinance when it's a good time to refinance, or when you can sell when the time is right to sell. Okay. So what I'd like to do is go over the process of title. Now, I'm kind of like Alex was saying, you really won't see me. I'm kind of behind the scenes. It's you know, you're going to deal with, obviously you're going to deal with your banker, you're going to deal with your realtor, you're going to deal with your attorney, all right? You're never really going to see your title guy. That's something that your attorney that you pick, Anthony, is a great attorney. He's really going to be, you know, talking to me and making sure that what you're buying is actually, like Ivy says, clear title. So what I want to do is take you through the process of what happens. So Alex finds you the house. You get it inspected. Minimal things, all systems go. You get to contract. You negotiate the contract. You sign the contract, okay? You start your financing, all right? What happens is that when the contract is executed, that means that both parties sign, both seller and buyer sign, now you have executed contract. Anthony sends a contract, the executed contract to my title company. It says, Frank, I need for you to run title. So I take title. The preliminary thing I have to do is make a search, make sure that I get my examiner. The examiner is the person that acquires all the information with the property that's associated with the property. Goes back a certain amount of years, comes back, gives me all the meat and potatoes of what is behind the closed door, what's behind the curtain. And what I mean by that, again, we touched on mortgages. Are there unpaid taxes? Are there legal issues, all right? Is there an estate issue? Sometimes some of these issues have to be resolved on an estate level. Is somebody, is somebody died? Did somebody pass away? Are there things that we have to resolve and able to get in order to get clear title, all right? So then what happens? About a week, probably in the city it's about a week. The further away you are from New York City, title reports take a little bit longer. If you go, like, let's say to Dutchess County, some towns, you might have a problem getting title back as quickly as you can in the city. Usually it's about a week in the city. But at any rate, you get a title report. I send a title report to Anthony, your attorney, and it states everything that has to be, it states exceptions, everything that has to be cleared, either omitted or accepted in order for you to get a title policy. This is called a title commitment. Your attorney will go over with you with it, right? And all of these exceptions have to be cleared in order for you to ultimately close escrow. Now, the other thing that title companies do in order to settle these things is we're also an escrow company. What does that mean? Escrow company means that we hold certain amount of monies to pay certain things in closing. So you have a table like this, everybody, all the parties are there. Bank sitting there, me, the title guy sitting there, and both parties sitting across from each other. And there's certain taxes that have to be paid. In New York City, it's a quarterly thing. So you always have taxes that are paid quarterly. We have to make sure that all the taxes are paid. The other thing that the title company does, if there's a mortgage and that has to be paid, it's very important that the mortgage has to be paid by the title company. Make sure that you're acquiring a house free of liens or legal issues and encumbrances, okay? So these are just some of the things that title companies do, or an excellent title company does in order to, settle the transaction, right? The other thing that we do is offer title insurance. Does anybody want to take a stab at what is title insurance? What does that actually insure? Does anybody know? Take a guess. Anybody, going once, going twice. Title insurance.
Missed mortgages, missed judgments that could come, that you'd be liable for as the new homeowner.
That's right.
And let's say Con Ed has a right of way to put a pole in your living room.
Right.
And they want to put a pole in your living room.
Right.
Things like that.
Things like that. Okay, so those are certain things that come about when it comes to title insurance. It ensures your use of the property, and it ensures your use of the property, and it also ensures the bank's position of if there's a loan on the property. If you're using financing to purchase, it ensures the bank's position on it, right? Because if you have a mortgage and the bank doesn't want to be second position to any other liens that might be on the property, that's what the title company, or at least one of the things the title company insures. Okay. All right. So closing services. I'm probably one of the few companies where, I'm kind of paranoid. I'm probably one of the few companies where I'm also the owner of the company, but I also close. And what does closing mean? A closer, who is a notary, comes to the closing and takes all the transfer docs, takes a deed, takes a mortgage if there's financing, takes transfer docs, takes all the affidavits that sellers and buyers have to sign in order to give the go ahead on the transaction, right? And also, we get all these documents signed, we have a deed signed, we make sure the deed is right, make sure the transfer docs are signed correctly and notarized correctly. And also we make sure if there's financing, that there's a mortgage instrument that's on the property that's taken so that we can record, all right? And we take that and we record it. Take all the information so that public record reflects that yes, there was a transaction that took place. Yes, there's a mortgage on this property and it's public record. There's a deed on this property, and there it is, it's deed. In New York City, we have a system called ACRS. ACRS shows everything that would, that took place in the closing. For instance, you have a deed. Usually a seller only signs a deed. That's notarized. You have a mortgage on a property. Make sure that that's notarized. That's taken. There's a mortgage amount. How much that mortgage is for? That sort of thing. And also transfer docs. Right? And that's just registration things on a property that need to be done in order to transact the property. Right? Now, the one thing that I like to say a title company does, because look, there are a lot of title companies out there. Title companies are a dime a dozen, right? A good all right, let me take a step back. I'm gonna pick on you since I got to know you before. Throughout your course of deals, or maybe, I don't know how many deals you've done, can you venture a guess to what the biggest reason is as to why from contract to close, why it takes so long sometimes for properties to close? You venture a guess? Maybe Ann, since you've been doing real estate closings for a long time.
On the property,
Maybe something about on the title.
and making sure that the title is clear, because sometimes it could be a lien on it.
This is true. Oftentimes there are liens.
Clear.
Oftentimes there are liens.
Right.
That's one reason.
It has to be clear.
You were saying? I'll put you on the spot. I got it.
No, sometimes you gotta send back the title because you find any issue, like she's saying, a lien.
Sometimes, yeah. I mean,
And
usually
that's the delay.
usually there are liens on properties. I don't know your experience, Anthony. Why
In the city, it's HPD and DOB violations, but which I know you don't insure, so it's not necessarily.
No.
There's a hiccup in the chain of title, where there was like a bad SAC recorded. Now you got to go find the mortgage company from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, you got to find the bank that bought the bank.
You know, I'm glad you brought that up. Sometimes title company, and these things happen, like those hiccups that happen sometimes, but not too often. A good title company, with that respect, a good title company kind of has those things already prepared, already baked in. So, like, let's say if there's an HM mortgage, I already know I gotta do an HM mortgage affidavit. Or if there's violations or things of that nature, I already know what I can suggest to get this cleared. I find, and I've been doing title since 2018. Right? I find the biggest reason why deals stall has absolutely nothing to do with actual title.
It's a municipality.
Huh?
The municipality?
No, miscommunication.
Oh, all right.
Miscommunication. I mean, I see that. I see that from I haven't really seen that from a closer end, but being in the back end and doing deals for all this time, I've seen that miscommunication is the number one reason why deals that should close in a month take 3. And when you buy real estate, agents, am I wrong? You want to close now. Buyers, am I wrong? If you buy a house and you're putting down $60, $70, $80, $100,000 on your purchase, do you want to close in 3 months or do you want to close now?
No.
God forbid there's a post-possession, right?
So you can even get in touch with the title person.
That is an excellent segue. The reason why I think that my company is different from all the title companies that are out there, there are big title companies, right? Accessibility, thank you, Steve Gottesman. All right, very important. I have to make sure, I take it upon myself to make sure that all the parties are talking. Hey, look, sometimes you have adversarial parties, and I know you've been there. Maybe an attorney on the other side is a cuckoo. Right?
And sometimes attorneys take longer.
Or maybe, or maybe there's certain parties that are miscommunicating, or things of that nature. Or maybe, there's something that should have been told to you as a realtor, as a buyer's agent, but for some reason didn't get to you, and you could have saved the deal. Yeah. Sometimes these things can be resolved with a phone call. collaboration is very important when you're doing this, all right? And I think that in thinking out the box, the reason why, title companies usually don't do this, I take it upon myself to make sure that there's collaboration. We're doing this. The professionals, the panelists are doing this because we want to make sure that there's communication out there, that we're collaborating. Because after all, we're trying to close here. We're trying to, we're trying to do a service for our clients out there. All right, we want to make sure that, after a contract's signed, right, we're closing in about a month and a half. Shouldn't really take that long, right? Steve's got great programs. He just told us that DSCR loan closes in what, 15 days?
17.
17 days.
Only because it was a weekend, they could have closed.
Oh, look at that.
How long it takes to do a title search on a property?
So excellent question. I kind of gleaned on this. I'll mention it to you. Title search shouldn't take. The process that you go to an examiner, I hire an examiner. What happens is that the examiner acquires all the information from public record from the courthouse. Oftentimes, what you see, like let's take a city property, right? Oftentimes you see properties on actors. It's public information. They're pretty good with that. I don't know if you're familiar with that system, right? Sometimes what's on actors isn't congruent with what you see in the title report, or what you might see from an actual title search, right?
Yeah.
So the thing is that in the city it's quick. It's about a week. You get your title report typed out. Anthony sees it. I personally like to just put a letter in front. You have the title report, and the letter states, "Hey, look, we got an estate issue or whatever the case is, or if there's an LLC, we need LLC docs, or whatever the case." The main exceptions to have us clear title and get you to the finish line. Okay. So basically, a title, a title, although you don't see us very often, oftentimes it's, we're really working behind the scenes not only to get this transaction to the finish line, but also to have collaboration through the deal. Because after all, the more you talk and communicate, the better things go. Right? So I don't want to belabor what I do. I know there's another panelist, I believe, that wants to speak a little bit more to what you know. Who wants to have a hack? Who wants to save money? Anybody here wants to save money? All right. I gave out some sample in some of the folders, some sample title reports, title bills. All right. I'm going to give you a couple examples, and coincidentally, Steve, you were involved in one of these transactions.
Same one.
Wow. Okay. So I'm going to explain to you a thing called what's called a CEMA, Consolidation Extension Modification Agreement. That will allow you to save a significant amount of money at the closing table. What I want to first illustrate is what you're paying on in reference to title. Number one, you're paying an owner's policy premium. That's the actual title insurance policy that you pay. Not paying a lot of money. Title is the only insurance that you're getting for hazard or for things that have already occurred, as opposed to regular insurance where you're paying for something that might happen. Okay, you're paying for a loan policy now. You're talking about more or less $3,000 for the average cost of a house. You're talking about maybe $3,000, $3,500 based on premium, right? So you have, a couple other things, endorsements that you have, especially when you have a financing, the bank's going to want certain what's called endorsements attached to that policy, all right? And that's not really that much. In this example, under my company, it was about $150, right? Now you have transfer taxes, right? Seller's going to pay transfer taxes, all right? When you go over $1 million, then that's when it gets dicey. In New York, I don't know why they do this, but when you're paying $1 million, not only you're paying mansion taxes, you're paying supplemental taxes, and it could really amount to a lot of money. That's why you're seeing a lot of deals for $999,000, right? Because that's what happens. So, how many people know here that the most expensive cost that you will pay on your transaction is the mortgage tax? That is right. In this example that I'm showing you, this person, the buyer, paid over $5,000 in mortgage tax, and we're talking about a transaction that was the price is for $535,000.
That's not a lot.
A lot of money. A lot of money. Mortgage taxes is the most expensive thing that you will pay, okay? Now, a consolidation and extension modification agreement allows you to pay a less amount of money in taxes. Why? Because you're basically assuming an existing note, you're switching it over to a note that you're acquiring and only paying what's called new money. All right, that's a gap mortgage, to put it technical. So on the second one, and these deals are kind of similar as far as like cost is concerned. And this second title report is a little bit hard to read, so I apologize for that. But it happens to be mine. I bought a condominium for $585,000. Realtors probably looking at me like, wow, I could have got him a better deal. Anyway, let's see. The mortgage taxes I paid, and I paid mortgage tax on $77,996.75. I paid $1,374. Kind of a big difference, you know? I mean, we're not talking $1 million here, but it's some money that you can save, and that's possible. These are the sort of things that you could do if you identify the right situation. It has to be with the place that you're buying has to have a note on it, and you have to be able to utilize that in order to get the SEMA. But you know, if you know certain things and if you're savvy about certain nuances that you can do, you can avoid paying a lot of taxes and throwing away your money. And I think that boils down to working with a good team. I think I'm part of a good team with everybody that's working here. Alex, Steve, Felix, who else? Anthony. And you know, it's just very important to know these nuances so that you can put some more money back in your pocket or put some money in the house, all right, that you're buying. So I don't want to go on and wax poetic about this and that. Just want to give you a gist about what I do, how I can save you money, and how we work together to help you accomplish what you want to do. Is there any questions that we have? No? Tito's so excited, right?
So Frank said that I know that you guys we're gonna get hungry after this meeting, after this training, and he bought some really amazing pasta. From where? Patricia.
From Patricia.
Patricia. So he's there. We're almost there. We got one more to bring to the front. Tony. So we bring it right now. So you bought the house, right? You bought the house is, you closed on the house. We went through inspection, loan approval, clean title, all that stuff. And now you want to do an extension because maybe the kitchen is too small. Or maybe there are some bathroom, a kitchen that you need to renovate. So we brought Tony here today. Tony is somebody that I know for a few years already. He did a lot of work for me, and he's a man of fact. I gotta say that. He's a good man. So he's gonna be taking over and talking to you about convention and stuff like that, right, for them? In 2 or 3K loan? Okay. Take over. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity, Alexander. Let me introduce myself. My name is Tony. The name of my company is Only Contracting Services. We really specialize in 2 or 3K loans. We got Fannie Mae with Steven, never get about it, all right? I'm licensed in Yonkers, Westchester, and 5 boroughs. So we file electric, construction, and plumbing work. I got many projects in Westchester, Connecticut, New York. This is all my background, what I as a 2 or 3K contractor. Any question about my? So this is a process too. When you buy a house as a home first buyer, this is a process. We got the bank lender, the real estate, the home inspector, the lawyer, and the title company. My exclusive work is just do construction work. So what does mean? When you buy the house, you can add for the renovation, correct? So this is gonna be my work. It's just construction work.
So basically, the 203K loan gives you the amount to rehab,
Right.
to fix
So
it.
all depends what-
Within the loan itself.
Yes.
Okay,
So
how long
the-
does it usually take?
So all depends. It's not just my work. It's a file work with the building department. I'm not control that time.
Okay, you have to
Sometimes
you have to get permits.
Right, get the permit.
Okay.
If it's a kitchen, we need a building permit, we need a plumbing permit, we need electrical permit. I'm not control that time.
Okay.
Sometimes it takes a month, and Mount it take like 3-4 months, right? Yonkers take like 5 months. I mean, that's crazy towns. New Rochelle is like 2-3 weeks, sometimes 3 days. So we don't know about, the
Depends.
files, but like, all depends. So, and which town you want to buy the house. So that's why you have to solve this on Sunday. So where it's gonna be the best location at the time.
Right.
So take it down, it's not easy the process about construction work. Yes.
How you calculate the amount, like how much you gonna charge when the bank hire you and say, okay, go and check this property? And you're gonna give them estimate, right?
Correct.
So based on the
Based about the condition of the house.
condition of the
So
house.
I don't know which house that maybe it's knocking down the whole house, maybe the kitchen, maybe the bathroom. It depends what the customer want to do.
Oh.
So they have to give the options.
Okay.
I got a question for you. So when you go in and a customer tells you, listen, I want to bring this house up to a better condition, are you going off what the client's requests are, or are you looking to get the house back to code?
Sometimes
But under the 203K.
Felix, it's about what they approve the bank lender. Remember, the house costs like $500,000. So I don't know what the bank lender they approve for the renovation. Sometimes they give you 50, sometimes they give you 100, sometimes they give you 150,000. I don't know what is gonna be the loan. So if the loan is 80,000, we have to want the 80,000 loan renovation. That's what I do.
So the bank decides, Steve? The bank decides, Steve?
Yo, Steve, I'm a bank. My granddaughter is texting me, I'm
The
sorry.
bank decides, okay, pay Tony to go and,
No, it's not, it doesn't work like that. There's a 203K plan, there's a 3-pronged group, like a committee that has to agree.
Okay.
The appraiser
okay,
has to agree with someone called a 203K planner,
okay.
who has to agree with Tony. Okay? The 3 of them have to agree because of that budget that the 203K planner sees that Tony made, he doesn't agree with it. If the appraiser says no, after you make those improvements, it's not going to be worth what we need at the end.
What?
So those 3 must all agree.
Agree.
So you have to find a 203K planner who works well with the contractor. The appraiser usually comes in line because the only part the appraiser really has is what's called the ARV part of the appraisal, the after repaired value. But you need someone who's experienced in 203K because the guy who just started doing contracting work 6 months ago after he retired from being a cop, it's not going to work. He doesn't know how to deal with a 203K planner. It's a very specific type of construction. And also another thing, a 203K construction guy has to be well capitalized. He's got to have money.
Money.
Because if he doesn't get money up front. He's not what we call front loading in the business.
Oh, okay.
People get in trouble with construction because the contractor, it's a $100,000 job, give me 40,000. He does 30,000 of work, he asks for another 40,000. And then at the end, says, oh yeah, it's gonna be another 50,000. Hold on, but it's another 10. No, I need another 50. So you think there was only 10,000 of work left? No, because he front loaded the money. So again, 203K, he does the work, then the bank gives him the money, not the other way around. So if you hire a contractor who doesn't have the moolah, he's not going to be able to do the work.
Oh, he have to have the money.
Yes, it has to be-
And use his money.
Exactly, and then the bank gives them the money. That's the
Oh.
difference.
In my flyers,
And they do it because they don't want you to get
No,
front
Tony,
loaded and
you
get
got
in
the
trouble.
ruler, eh?
right? In my flyer, I explain why I'm specialized. I got 10 years experience, deal with bank lenders, right? It's more than 100 pages, go back and forth with the bank lenders. So that's the reason I'm specialized there. So I'm the capital guy in the front. Like example, you want to buy the house, right? It's gonna be $500,000, all right? So renovation and the house. So my money is gonna be on the front. So I have to wait for the bank lender, and send me the money.
Okay.
So this is the process.
Mhm.
So last year I moved like $4 million in home renovations by 2 or 3K.
Wow.
So that's the reason I specialize. Any question? As soon as we finish, I'm gonna pass my flying and you can check and read what is the step by the house.
Oh,
It's gonna
okay,
be-
yeah. Okay.
Any question?
Thank you, Tony.
Would the bank allow you to recommend a planner? So you guys can team up with the planner so you're on the same page as a team? Or no?
There are very few planners, I'm sure Tony knows them all. But that's fine, it's good for them to team up together.
Okay.
For home first buy house is a team. There's not, a
The lender.
lender, real estate, title company, the lawyer,
The inspector?
the inspector. So everybody got different concepts. So my work is exclusive construction.
Only construction,
That's
that's
it.
it.
Any
You
question
just
about
gotta
construction? Get the money from the
agree,
lender.
you gotta be agreed with the three
Right.
people that Steve
right.
mentioned. That's it.
And,
You start doing the work.
and plus, if in those loans,
He's gonna
I
have to.
think they got really good offers, so I never heard about it. And Steven, thank you for the opportunity. Trust me, it's a good offer, good deals. And this is all my information. So any question? Thank you.